Let's get going, everybody. I've got a couple of things up front, some introductions and all. First off, I'm John Morris. I'm president of CBI. Thank you so much both to our panelists for today, but then also all of those who are joining us to hear what these professionals have to talk about. This session is being recorded. The sessions will get up soon. We don't have a specific date, but these will be up through December 31st. Remember to use Google Chrome. It is the best thing for this Attendify app. And please do check out our sponsors. Make an active attempt to go talk to our sponsors. Because of them being here, we've been able to keep the cost of this very low. And you get to network with other attendees. And then tonight is the membership meeting. The membership meeting is for everybody. So if you're a student, you can come join the membership meeting. Certainly advisors, we would like you to be there. And anybody else who would like to hear what is happening. And then also we'll talk about where we're going forward. And then don't forget to rate this session when it's all over. All right. Let's do some introductions here. We have ourselves an absolutely fantastic panel for professional organizations and how they can help your career. Very much targeting the students that are looking to get into the career field. And of course, today is, this time is very funky. It's made so many changes in the career world. So I'll do some quick introductions. Hugo Balta, the President, National Association of Hispanic Journalists. April Carty-Sip, Executive Vice President, Industry Affairs, National Association of Broadcasters. Erica Farber, President and CEO, Radio Advertising Bureau. Monica Herndon, Chair of Visual Task Force, NABJ, and photojournalist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Dylan Lewis, Development and Marketing Manager, NLGJA, the Association of LGBTQ Journalists, and Dana Schaefer, Producer, ABC News Radio. Tell you what, let's just go in the order that I introduced everybody. If you will talk about what your organization is, just a quick 1 to 2 minute thing about what it is that your organization is, and then we will move into how you can connect with students and vice versa. So Hugo Balta, President, National Association of Hispanic Journalists.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. I am the two-time past president of NHJ. Last month, we elected a new board and a new president, but I'm happy to be here representing the organization. NHJ is a journalism organization, as you could understand by its title, focused on journalists that are Hispanic Latino, and its mission, almost 40 years, is really is on a foundation of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The premise is, in order for journalists to fulfill their responsibility of fair and accurate reporting coverage, it needs to be reflective and inclusive of the community it serves. And in this unprecedented year where we're not only still struggling through COVID-19, still struggling through the racial reckoning and the aftermath of George Floyd, days away from one of the most critical elections in our country's history, a census year. Certainly, Hispanic Latinos have been at the center of all of those conversations, whether it's disparities in access to healthcare, education, wealth, employment, stemming from COVID-19, to the conversations led certainly by the Black community, but spanning to Black and Brown communities, all marginalized communities, in regards to systemic racism, not just in policing, but in different facets of society. The census, where an accurate count is so critical, not just to this community, but to all communities in regards to representation in government, but also funding for education and other resources that communities, from marginalized communities in particularly, need in regards to health and, again, education and employment. It is paramount that our organization continue to work, not just with Latino journalists, but different outlets across many different platforms in helping them better understand a community that is not just leading the population growth of the United States, as we see every 10 years with the census, but it's transforming the political, economic, cultural impact of our country and what it means to be an American. So my role here is to continue to work in that space of building bridges between journalists and Latinos to our newsrooms in better and having a better cultural understanding of this community as it pertains to different facets of all of our society.
Excellent, thank you. April, hopefully we have your audio working. April, Executive Vice President, Industry Affairs, National Association of Broadcasters.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. My name's April, as they mentioned, from the National Association of Broadcasters. Our organization is mostly an advocacy organization, and we're located in Washington, D.C. Our mission is advocacy, education, and innovation. And what we work on is we are the voice for broadcast stations and radio stations across the country, including a lot of college stations. A lot of your stations are members. We advocate for the industry with the FCC, with Congress, with legislators. We also provide broadcast education, so webinars, podcasts, instructional courses to foster career development. We have an NEB pilot organization which works on innovation for advancing broadcast technology and also cultivating new media opportunities. And we even provide PSAs and spots, for radio stations and the like, so that you're able to, still provide, community service to your different stations. And my role exactly is I'm the industry affairs head. We lead the membership, radio, and television divisions. So we're actually the liaison really between our organization and the members.
Excellent, thank you. Erica Farber, President, CEO, Radio Advertising Bureau.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. The RAB is actually celebrating a milestone birthday on November 9th. We're going to be 70 years old. But we are all things commercial broadcast radio. So we are a nonprofit trade association that represents the broadcast radio industry. And our primary objective is threefold. First and foremost is to help drive revenue growth, and we do that through advocacy. We advocate on behalf of the medium at advertisers, advertising agencies, both local, regional, and national. And to that point, we provide products and tools and resources for local radio stations to help them generate and create revenue at the local level. We also advocate on behalf of the medium with the commercial trades, people that are investing in the medium. So anytime someone is interested in learning about broadcast radio and the revenue growth, they work through us. The third area we're very focused on is helping the industry attract new talent through the medium, which is really important. So for those of you who are thinking about radio as a career, if you want to talk further about that, we would love that. And we also work very hardly on enhancing the professionalism through training and support of all of the people in the radio industry. I will say that, again, we are a member association, but if you are a non-member, there are ways to have access to a lot of data through rab.com, whether you are a member or not. There's also a Y radio section that you do not have to be a member. That is an open website that gives you tremendous facts and figures and research and exciting information about the strength of our industry. And then the last open website are the Radio Mercury Awards, which is a project that we do every year where we are the only association that honors great radio creativity that's used from an advertising standpoint.
Excellent, thank you. Monica Herndon, Chair of Visual Task Force, NABJ, and photojournalist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. So several things and areas to discuss.
Hi, yes, like you said, I am a member of NABJ and a chair of the Visual Task Force. And I work in Philadelphia. It's been a busy week here.
Yeah.
NABJ is a nonprofit organization that advocates for Black journalists and increasing diversity in newsrooms, similar to some other orgs here. We partner with NAHJ on conventions occasionally. And within NABJ, there are different smaller groups like the task forces that kind of specialize on different platforms. So my task force, the Visual Task Force, is mostly photographers, videographers, both who work for newspapers, digital platforms, as well as television. And then there are many other task force, like the print task force, the digital, that's kind of very encompassing, a specific broadcaster task force, young journalists. So you're able to kind of join these smaller groups within the larger group. There are also chapters around the country, some at colleges, that students are able to join.
Excellent. Dylan Lewis, Development and Marketing Manager, NLGJA, the Association of LGBTQ Journalists. And just to make sure, could you say what all those letters stand for?
Sure, absolutely. So as John said, my name is Dylan Lewis. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the Development and Marketing Manager at NLGJ, the Association of LGBTQ Journalists. NLGJ, the Association of LGBTQ Journalists, is in its 30th year. NLGJ is our traditional moniker, but we go predominantly by the Association of LGBTQ Journalists, since those are the journalists that we represent. We are a traditional membership association in that we have resources for our members, specifically for students. We have scholarships, we have a mentorship program, a job board, and of course at our national convention, which this year was virtual just last week, we have opportunities for students to connect with our partners, different news companies and organizations to gain internships and postgraduate employment. In addition to those traditional membership resources, we work to promote fair and accurate coverage of LGBTQ issues, communities, and people. So we do have different resources available to journalists for free who are covering issues or LGBTQ communities. That includes a style book on LGBTQ terminology, which is available in English as well as in Spanish, thanks to a partnership with NAHJ and the National LGBTQ Task Force. We also have a rapid response task force, which is a group of working journalists who utilize their places in newsrooms to address problematic coverage or step in to make sure that coverage is not problematic before it is released to the public. So like I said, we're in our 30th anniversary. You can learn more about us by visiting nlgja.org. And my contact information is also on my profile. So if you have any questions about our association after this conversation, you can reach out to Dylan at nlgja.org.
Super, thank you. And Dana Schaefer, producer, ABC News Radio.
Hey there. So I'm actually on a little bit of a different side where I'm actually a part of the Mildred Carter mentoring program. I'm a mentee right now. So it's a great experience for me and for those who are actually younger or newer in the radio field. You get placed with a woman in radio or sales or, something along the media lines of those types of things. And you kind of learn whether it's, programming, sales, on air, etc. And they place you with different people. They give you their mentoring tips and, hints and everything like that. And it's fantastic because you get to learn from so many different powerful, successful women. And it is for females, and it's great if you're starting off. And, another thing I will say and add, because I'm 10 years in radio, but I'm still newer in the field. it's really important to get involved in all these types of organizations. And that's how I've learned to connect and network with so many different people doing these organizations or going to these conferences, because without them, I probably wouldn't know half the people that I know now. So it's really important to get involved with these things, CBI, NAB, NRB, you name it. It's important, very important.
And I think that you brought up a really good point. Not only did you go to conferences, which of course we like in person better, but you go to the conferences and actively were seeking people out, not just going to a session and listening, but you made it important to find people, let them know your name.
Yeah, introduce yourself, let them know who you are, volunteer. A lot of the times I go to a lot of these organizations, I'm not getting paid because you know what, the knowledge is payment for me. So anytime that I volunteer for any of these types of conferences, I, lend a hand, whether it's, just handing out tickets or t-shirts, you name it, whatever. And I never think that I'm above anyone. I don't care how many years in radio I am at whatever time. It could be 10 years, 25, 50 years. I'm still going to do that because I want to volunteer my time with other radio organizations and conferences. And I learn so much and I meet so many people. So, I might be flying somewhere and paying for my plane ticket or whatever, hotel, but it's totally worth it in the end because it got me to where I am now.
Excellent. For those who are joining us, we want you to ask questions. It shouldn't just be me, the one doing it. So go to the comments section and I will pass those along as we get them. What I'm going to do is ask a variety of questions as we await people putting those in. And some of the questions I'm going to ask, one or two people have already answered, but not everybody else. And I'm just going to go in the order now of how everybody appears on my screen. Let's talk conferences or conventions. What specifically kind of conference or conventions does your organization have? And with that, are there any kind of special student discounts? Monica, if we could start with you, please.
Hi, yeah, so NABJ hosts a national conference every year. And yes, there is a student discount. It's a cheaper fee. I don't know off the top of my head. We also host regional conferences, and then the different chapters hold events all year round. Also at the national convention, we have a student newsroom in the Student Multimedia Project, which is a free ride for students to the convention. They cover the convention, they stay at the hotel, they get to work with other industry professionals. That has both a broadcast newsroom and a print newsroom who work kind of together. And while they're there, the students cover the conference like it's a regular newsroom. So they go to panels, they're meeting celebrity guests, they're meeting other students, and it's a great networking opportunity to meet people who could be your mentor, but also to meet other people of color who are your peers.
Erica, you're next. How about your organization as far as the conferences and then student opportunities and discounts?
Our largest conference we do in partnership with April and her team at the NAB, so April may want to jump in on this, but several years ago we created a student scholar program. And how that works is if you are a full-time student in a college or a university and you apply for the scholarship, we pay 100% of the registration fee to attend the event. The travel and expense of you attending the meeting is student supported in many cases. Sometimes schools will support that stipend. But we have over 100 students each year that have been attending the program, and we're quite proud of that program. I would also mention that through the MIW group that Dana spoke about, which stands for Mentoring and Influencing Women in Radio, we also, for those mentees that are involved in that program, we at the REB actually pick up the expense for them to attend, and the MIWs pay for that as well. Our actual sales training that goes on regularly, we don't really have student discounts, although we have just made a recent acquisition, and that is the radio. I always say the name wrong, but it's the radio talent system. And currently we are involved with 9 colleges across the country, and that is a 14-day immersion course. And the students pay a very minor fee to attend that, but it is a full immersion into the radio industry, and it happens every summer.
Yes, I know one of those is not very far from where I'm at in Evansville, Indiana. So,
Right.
Excellent. Dylan, you did talk a little bit about the student direct opportunities, but what about convention and what about student opportunities, discounts, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So like many of the other organizations that are represented here, our national convention is our big hallmark event for the year. We do, like Monica was talking about, NEBJ's student journalism program. We also have one of those at our convention where 12 students come around to the convention every year, all expenses paid, and are able to build a newsroom from the ground up and cover not just the convention, but we tend to focus on the local community as well. The convention is very special in that for a lot of our students, as well as a lot of our members, it's the only time that they're able to be around other LGBTQ journalists. So the convention really is a great, strong community for the couple days that we're together. So I would highly encourage that anybody check that out. We just had our virtual convention last weekend, actually. That was wonderful. And we had about 100 students join us, which was terrific. In terms of student discounts, students always receive a discounted registration to come to the convention. For the students who are supported by their schools, they are able to come, but for the students who are not supported by their schools, we have some additional opportunities, including scholarships and such, to come to the convention. So if you are a student and you're interested in joining or coming to the convention, we do have opportunities for you at the convention, as well as some resources to break down those barriers to access.
Excellent. April, I know Erica talked about some that will cross over, but what can you add?
Absolutely. As Erica mentioned, we partner with them for the radio show, which we just did virtually, which happened October 5th through the 9th. And that content's actually still available on demand till the end of the year. So I'm sure that there's a student discount, as we mentioned, on that. Also, we do the one of the top 10 largest conferences in the world is run by NAB. It's called the NAB Show. It takes place in Las Vegas every year, normally in April. Unfortunately, as you know, we weren't able to have it this past year due to the coronavirus, but we are doing it next year, and we've already announced our dates, and it's in October 2021. So we moved it from April to October in hopes that a vaccine will come and we'll be able to have our conference in person. Over 100,000 people attend this conference. It's really, truly a sight to see if you've never been. We focus on media, technology, entertainment, education. There's literally thousands of sessions. It's unbelievable. Also, the Broadcast Education Association usually has their conference at the same time. They haven't announced if they're going to move from April to then yet, but if you attended that, you would get to go to NAB show for free. And also in partnership with Erica, we're moving the radio show this next year to Las Vegas in conjunction with that. So that's going to be at the same time. And as mentioned, we also have a marketplace pass, which is if you can go to the exhibits generally for free, and then you can, get some student discounts and young professionals really discounted for some other sessions. There's also a career source that's there where we partner with our foundation, the National Association of Leadership or National Association of Broadcasters Leadership Foundation, NEBLF, and they have a career fair there. So it really is like I said, it's a sight to see if you haven't been. There's literally 100,000 people in Las Vegas. Hopefully, like I said, we'll be able to get that going next year, and we already have a date.
Yeah, and just to add, I've gone to many of those, and it's always fun being at the intersection, ready to cross the street to the convention center or in the tram. just to listen to all the different languages, because there's people from around the world and going, okay, I know that one. I have no idea what that one is. And so it's just so cool to be around people that come from the different angles, which each one of your organizations brings in there. Hugo, how about for the NAHJ and student opportunities, discounts, such and that?
Yeah, basically all of the above. Certainly discounts for students, including scholarships to get students to the conference when we of course can do it in person. But really the value is in working hand in hand with mentors and really in producing content that week that goes into our digital platform, the Latino Reporter, that then the students can use as examples of their work. This year, like everyone else, we hosted the first ever virtual conference, a partnership with NABJ that was very successful and hyper-focused on training not only to our regular members, but also with our students. And for next year, the board is considering doing the same, but it's an invaluable experience that begins at the national conference, but then continues throughout the year in collaboration with our professional chapters across the country.
Now I want to come over to Dana, and truthfully, it's been a couple moments since you talked, so I may be asking something you already answered. When you were in college, were you able to actively go to any organizations, conferences, and conventions?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in college, I didn't know as many as I do now. It really helped going into the field a little bit more. I think, you know, if my professors knew a little bit more about conferences and stuff, it would have been helpful, but it's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, I think, for instance, CBI is a great starting point for a lot of students, because that really can set you off. For instance, this conference and this panel right here, you're learning about a bunch of different conferences that I had no idea back when I was in college. But when I did find one, for instance, CBI, I would travel to it, I would go to it, and I would network. And that's basically how I became, you know, a panelist and just volunteered on here, is I would just keep in touch with you guys and wait until the next year and the next year and the next year. So.
And so obviously, you know, we talked about the discounts that are available for students. Then there's, you know, for a lot of it are those other costs, how you get there, you know, how you're going to pay for food. April, not April, but Dana, how are you able to do that? Obviously, every school is different. Every student at every school is different. But how were you able to afford those things that otherwise would be out of reach?
Well, I think with colleges in like the student government type situation, you know, if you pitch it to them that this is going to be beneficial to you, they can definitely help fund your trip or travel, or maybe just like expense a few things, whether it's like a hotel or food. Or something that I've also done is volunteered my time. And since I wasn't getting paid, you know, I would talk to some of the leaders of these conferences, and they would either give me the hotel for free or like at a discounted price, or food, something like that. And then that would at least help my expenses a little bit more. But a lot of the times, you know, I would, you know, dish out a few bucks or whatever to go and pay for it. But it's all in comparison and thinking that it's going to be worth it in the end. And if you can save up for, say, half of a year to get to a conference, it's worth it. And it's like a vacation. That's what I say. It's like these things are for work or for, you know, knowledge, but it's also kind of a vacation. You get to travel and you get to see different areas and meet different people. So it's beneficial in many ways.
Please don't call that a vacation, because if my wife hears these conventions I go to and the word vacation, that just doesn't go over well.
I don't go on vacations anymore. I literally just go to conferences, and those are counted as my vacations. But I love it. So
what I'd like to do is let's stick on those conventions. A student is coming to your convention. Outside of the networking and things like that, what would you say to the student when you come to this convention? you should do this. These are the things that it's going to help you get the most out. And of course, once you know what it is, there's certain sessions, we don't know that right now, but what would you say to the students that if you really want to get your money's worth for this convention, do this? Monica.
Sorry, I was muted. Well, at NABJ with the Visual Task Force, we have a suite at the hotel where we offer additional programming that's outside of the like daytime programming. So we kind of use that space. We always have a portfolio review. So one thing I'm always encouraging students to do is to bring their reel, bring their pictures, bring their video stories, bring their packages, and we'll pair you up with someone who's in the industry and they will give you a tough review. They're not holding anything back. Like as a student, that's how I got involved with the Visual Task Force is I showed up at one of the portfolio reviews and someone ripped my portfolio to shreds. But I learned a tremendous amount and kept coming back for more. And I would that's how I got in. I started volunteering with the Visual Task Force, and that's how I've ended up in a leadership role now. So definitely pursue any sort of review that you can get while you're there.
Erica, how about you? What's the tips for students when they go to these conventions to truly get the most out of it that will help them?
I have two answers for that. So specifically at the radio show, because we are very focused on our student scholars, the first day of the conference, we have specific programming just for the student scholars. And we open up with a session of executives from the content side, from the sales side, from the CEO side, where we introduce our students to our captains of industry in our business. And, we encourage them to have these conversations. We also, throughout the entire week, or depending on the length of the conference, we set up roundtables where we have two executives at each table, and the students sign up and have an opportunity to talk directly with, again, people that are in positions to hire, people that are in positions to give them greater input on what the job situation is and why it's a great industry. So that's specifically the radio show. I would say separately from that is, first of all, show up on time. I would encourage you all to sit in the front row to participate. If you have an opportunity to ask a question, I would absolutely take advantage of that and, state your name clearly and what school you're with. And at the end of these sessions, when people get off panels and situations, they are very happy to speak with students. So I would be prepared to go up to them, introduce yourself. If you have a business card, that's fantastic. If you have a resume, some may take it, some won't. And then follow up with them on LinkedIn and use that opportunity. LinkedIn can be such a great tool afterwards to say, I had the opportunity to hear you speak. I thank you for that learning opportunity, and I would love to know more about your organization or company. So that opens a door for you. Do not be afraid to go up to anyone. And I will tell you, if someone is rude to you, then it's not anyone you want to work for anyway. So you will find, and it is nervous, I get that, but you will find that most people attending a conference, if a student approaches them, they will absolutely welcome them and talk to them about anything. But again, be prepared. Don't waste their time. I would also do something that sets you apart. Things have gotten much more business casual. There is a young man who I won't mention. I will tell you, I'm not advocating this, but it was at a conference I was at, and this guy had on this beautiful suit and a bow tie, and if he didn't stand out, and I will tell you, everybody talked to that young man because you wanted to talk to him, like, what is that about? Who is he? So he stood out. So anything that you can do that just allows your personality to come out and but be prepared, because if someone's going to ask, if you're going to ask someone a question and they ask you, be prepared to be able to answer that question.
And follow that up with what Eric said. I know who you're talking about. I remember that student with the bow tie. The other side is don't go the other direction and show up in shorts and sandals and a sloppy t-shirt, because you are selling yourself through all of this.
Yeah.
Dylan, suggestions for students to get the most out of your conventions?
Yeah, I absolutely echo everything that Erica said in terms of speaking to the speakers who are presenting in sessions. At our convention, we are a smaller group, so we have a lot more opportunities to informally network with other attendees and get a great feel on the community that is there. So I would say, rather than showing up on time, show up actually 20 minutes early to the sessions, and then sit next to different people, have different conversations with folks in that when they're not on the spot in front of a room of people speaking, and just get to know people who are different from you. We have a lot of intergenerational mentorships that have grown very organically out of just conversations at the convention between students and folks who are more veteran journalists. So I would say take advantage, of course, of those formal networking opportunities at the Career and Community Expo and with folks who are speaking on panels, but don't be afraid to just talk to any attendee as well, and really branch out and challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone in that way.
So April, now for you, yours is different than Dylan, where he's talking about it's a smaller gathering. NAB is not smaller. When you cross into that convention center and they open the doors to the exhibition halls, I'll always remember that. That's one of the sights in my life that I literally remember, and the jaw just dropping, going, this is incredible. Students could get lost in all of that, and that's just the exhibition hall and all the sessions. What's your suggestion for students specifically to get something out of that big of an organizational gathering?
It absolutely can be overwhelming when you walk in, and I know what you mean. I still feel the same way when I go in. I can't believe there's that many people there and how amazing it is. We actually have a young professionals track, and we get a lot of requests from high-level executives. You know, Fox Sports asked. We awarded Fox Sports with a Hall of Fame award last year, and they requested to speak to these younger professionals because, you know, as Erica mentioned earlier, you know, people really want to expand and give people, you know, that are younger, you know, regenerate that business or, you know, the profession. So, you know, it's something that we really concentrate on. The other thing I mentioned it earlier was the career fair. Absolutely a no miss. Definitely hit the career fair. And as we discussed before, the broadcast educational side. One other thing I'll note is, you know, there's so many sessions, whatever you're interested in, you know, whether it's lighting, editing, you know, there's speakers on podcast. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, whatever your interest is, go to that session. And like they said, go early. I love those rules. One other tip I'd say, when I was in college, I actually interned at a convention. I interned at the National Association of Television Programming Executives, NATPE. And what they are is they're an organization that syndicates television shows. And the year that I went, I'm dating myself, but Seinfeld went into syndication. And so I got to meet Seinfeld, which was amazing because I was an intern. And so that was pretty cool. And I was Burt Reynolds' assistant for the day. And we were giving Milton Berle the Lifetime Achievement Award. So I got some behind the scenes just because I was an intern and volunteered. And how I paid for that was I didn't get paid. I got to intern there. They paid for my hotel room and my food, and I had to pay for my flight. So I saved up and we did fundraisers throughout the school year. So even that type of experience where you can go behind the scenes and get in a little bit further is just a unique experience. So I highly recommend looking for internships for these conventions too, because you won't believe that, you know, although you don't get paid necessarily, the connections that you make help me get my first job without a doubt.
And I do have to laugh. There's students right now going, who's this Milton dude you're talking about?
Yeah, I know. I said I'm dating myself. He was obviously he was very senior then is how I'll say it. So, but he was getting a Lifetime Achievement Award.
So Hugo, same thing for you with your convention and students.
You know, I agree with what everyone shared. I would also add, really network with purpose. You know, a lot of times I come across young students that are naturally nervous and don't maximize the time that they have, whether it's the elevator speech or actually sitting down and going through your work with one of the recruiters. That time and space is very limited. So it's really about your pregame. It's really thinking about looking at what's available during that week, being very purposeful about who you're engaging with, and not just with recruiters, also with peers. So maximizing the time that you have there, and then networking with a purpose, so that when you're leaving, you're not necessarily leaving with a new job. That would be great, but you have the contacts, both peers and recruiters, that then you're going to be following up throughout the year, keeping in touch, nurturing that relationship, and born from that first connection during the conference, that's what's going to lead to the next opportunity. Too often what I see is young people are looking at the conference as a silver bullet or a turnkey. And look, lightning does strike, but oftentimes it's really about having conversations, exploratory conversations about not just the opportunity of the moment, but of the future. You want to walk away leaving a good impression, so that when you're following up, they remember you. And as those opportunities come up, they're the ones that are going to be reaching out to you and inviting you to interview, to apply, as opposed to what often happens, which is the other way. Someone looking at a posting, an opportunity online, and then applying for it. Usually when you see those postings, there's already a short list of candidates. You want to be in that short list, and the only way that happens is if you develop smart relationships.
Dana, let's go to an experience for you, and I'd like this to be more since you've become a professional. What is something that you took, a specific event or whatever at a convention, that surprised you, you took something away from, or a wow moment that is one of your experiences?
That's a tough question. That's a good one, because there have been so many conferences at this point. I think a wow moment was something I was actually going to mention anyway, that when, for instance, I went to a conference, a talk show boot camp back in Los Angeles when I was still living there, but I was in the mindset that I was going to move back to New Jersey and try something back east. And I was talking to a lot of different people. I was kind of new to the conferences still, but everyone I approached and talked to, and kind of just like the panels that I was watching and everything, it was just really eye-opening that everyone was very supportive and was very open to speaking with me. Something like, everyone has said on this panel so far, pitch yourself, kind of talk about what you want to do, reach out to these people, make sure that you do keep in contact with these people. They're here to help you. If they're at a conference, most likely they want to talk anyway. Conferences are all about meeting and talking and networking. And when I was there, for instance, it was just, I met another woman named Dana at the time. She was in radio as well, and we bonded, and she opened my eyes to, women being in media. It was something that I wasn't really I was like, oh, okay, sometimes women have it difficult trying to get into the media field, whatever. I was kind of shrugging it off. I was like, we're fine. And then when I was talking to her more, I was kind of just my mind opened up about, how to be, to stand out more, I guess, especially as a woman, because sometimes, you kind of get talked over. And so it was just really good to have a mentor like that at that moment when I was still kind of young and trying to figure out what to do, where to move, what to do next. But yeah, I would say, honestly, in general, something I was going to mention, like everyone else, be prepared. And something, as someone going to these conferences more than being on panels, it's have your LinkedIn ready, have a resume ready, have everything in line, so that when you're at these conferences, you can talk to these people. Both times I went to talk show boot camp, for instance, it's definitely more of an older crowd, but I stood out because I was probably one of the youngest ones there. And both times I basically got a job opportunity. I had someone approach me saying if they wanted to have me volunteer for one of their conferences at another later date. So I said, of course. And that led me to meet so many people that I still now have connections with, which works for me at ABC News Radio. But also, because I went to one of those conferences, I met my future boss at ABC News Radio, which led me to get this job. So it's really important to know, you don't even know who might be there, who might be crossing your path, but just always be prepared, because you never know who you'll meet.
Let's stick on the convention aspect, but let's step away from when the convention actually is, you know, that 9 to 5, middle of the day. You all have gone to numerous conventions. What's your one tip for people who go to a convention outside of when you're attending that convention? That might be dinner, it might be trying to get sleep, whatever the case may be. What's your big tip? We'll change it up this time and we'll start with Erica.
Don't be the one with the lampshade on your head. And I will tell you, I truly mean that. And every convention and every meeting and every company I have ever worked for in my entire career, we have always had a meeting before people leave to go to a convention. Because you're going to learn just as much in the hallways and at dinners and at social events. However, do not ever let your guard down. You never want to be the one that drinks too much. You never want to be the one that does something that the next morning you're going to regret. And there is always someone at a convention who overconsumes and does something that they regret. And I don't care who you are. I don't care how old you are. That is not the one you want to be. And you will probably find that, in fact, in these social events and social opportunities, you're going to have much more of an opportunity to actually engage in a longer conversation and really develop some relationships that you're going to have. And you want to walk away with a sterling reputation. And there are people I know, they have had it takes, you can work your tail off to have a great reputation. And in 30 seconds, you can wipe that out. So you always have to be mindful of it. I sound like I'm passionate about it, don't I?
You've witnessed it. So Dylan, your tip.
Yeah, so like I said, we have a little bit of a smaller convention, but a lot of the folks who come have been attending for many, many, many years, and their plan is kind of set. They know who they're going to go to dinner with. They know what they're going to do in the evenings. What I would say is take advantage of the things that are in place that are social events. So we have like a first timers reception and things like that early on in the convention to make sure that you are able to take full advantage of the evenings and mornings for breakfast and coffees and such throughout the rest of the convention. Because you certainly don't want to lose time. And as we all know, when you start a convention, you blink and then it's over. So make sure that you are really taking advantage of it from the second you walk in the door. And don't be afraid to make plans with people and get business cards and that sort of thing from the jump.
Dana, you've talked a little bit about it, but what would be your tip for attending, but not the convention itself, the other hours?
Well, first, I would definitely agree with Erica. Don't be that person, especially when you are on the younger side or the newer side. You definitely want to have a good reputation, and you definitely you want to be there to have fun. You're on like a vacation, as they are. But you want to make sure that this is for your future. So keep that in mind. And, I would also say, like, for instance, you might, like Dylan said, you might have, they might already have plans set, but talk to these people, and sometimes they are open to either inviting you out. They're open to getting coffee with you in the morning or something. Just say something like that, offer something. Can we get coffee? Can we get a lunch? Or we have a 2-hour break in between. Can we do something then? It's really important to kind of broaden your horizons and network in that kind of way. And maybe that way they can kind of decompress with you and you can, it's not as high strung when you're in the conference. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. April.
So we have a lot of programming during NAB show that goes into the evening. So we give away our Hall of Fame or our selections for our Hall of Fame awards are those evenings. Believe it or not, the Emmys for the technical awards happen a lot of times on Sunday of the NAB awards. So there's a lot of evening activities that are planned. And much like Dylan said too, there's a lot of people plan dinners ahead of time. So believe it or not, restaurants that week in Vegas, to get a reservation, you need to book it way ahead of time. There's so many happy hours that happen that are with vendors or with affiliations or organizations. Like we mentioned earlier, the young professionals, first timers, we have all of those as well. There's so many different things you could do. And also, frankly, like we were talking about, don't drink too much, get sleep. Because it's a record amount of time that you walk. I mean, we actually have a contest at NAB every year on who walks the most, how many steps you have in. So at the beginning of the week and then at the end of the week, you see how many steps you have, and there's like whoever has the most steps, because it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of steps. So you do want your sleep so that you can be fresh, because to be in those early sessions are a lot of the ones where you're going to make a lot of the good connections. So combination of all those. I know you can sleep wherever, but just to try and be fresh in the mornings, one of my suggestions too.
Hugo, how about you?
I think all of the above, right? And one of the things that's very important that's what we're talking about is being selfishly guarding your personal brand. You don't want to be in those situations where people are taking pictures and posting it, and you don't want to be that person that continuously has a glass, a can of adult beverages, right? You need to. I've been in many situations where recruiters are looking at different candidates, and one of the things that they do as they're coming down to those finalists is they Google their names. They're looking at their social media handles, and if over and over again you're that person that's at the bar having a good time, if it comes down to you and two other candidates, those recruiters, those companies are very protective of their brand. You need to be the same way. So have a good time. I get what Dana's saying. These conferences are expensive, and for some of them, yeah, you know what? This is my vacation. So it's absolutely fine to have a good time, but be very mindful of what you're doing. What you're there for. And if you're going to have a good time, absolutely have it, but then be mindful of social media. Do you really want that out there? Because once it's out there forever.
And then Monica, if you'll wrap up this portion.
Yeah, I want to echo what everyone has already said in terms of walking, like wear shoes that you can walk in. You don't want to be stuck in a conference room in heels like I can't make it back to my hotel room because your feet hurt. The Visual Task Force and some other task forces and the local chapters will have happy hours and evening programming. And that's when a lot of our portfolio reviews happen in a more informal setting. It's sometimes a happy hour and a portfolio review. So you need to not drink too much, but the person who's reviewing you is probably trying to relax at the same time. Another thing I wanted to mention was that you'll meet a lot of your peers. You'll meet people who work in different regions and in different parts of the industry. And I think it's important that you also spend some time getting to know them, because you never know who could be your coworker or who could end up being your boss. And there are people who I've met at the convention who work in LA and who work all over the country. I have this network now of people who are about the same level as me, who are experiencing the same things I am. And we're able to have conversations like, what's going on in your newsroom? And a lot of those connections I made at the convention.
Excellent. What I'm looking at the screen, I don't have the little timer up in the left-hand corner. Is there a little timer that you see on your screen? Okay, then I think we have about 5 minutes and then it's going to all shut down. I was surprised nobody said the tip for traveling is roll your clothes, don't fold them before you put them in the luggage, because they won't wrinkle as much. Okay, last one. This is not convention related at all, and some of you have kind of crossed on over this. Right now, for a college student, what is the advantage of being a member of your organization strictly as a college student, non-convention related? Dylan, let's start with you. And again, if everybody will keep it real short, because we're not going to have much time.
Absolutely. So the convention happens over about 3 days, but we have resources that are available to students throughout the entire year. So we have scholarships, mentorships, like I said, as well as different webinars. We're a chapter-based organization, so we have student chapters, networking, happy hours and such in the evenings. So if you can't go to a convention, there's still 362 other days to do stuff. And of course, if you have any questions, Dylan@nlgja.org is my email.
All right, April.
Sure, I was just going to type something in with our email or with our website as well. Same, we have year-round programming that people can get. One of the best benefits, we also provide, broadcast resource hub, which is literally everything, one-stop shopping, an election toolkit, how to cover hard topics, diversity, equity, inclusion resources, cybersecurity, you name it, everything for your station that can help you, as well as the career resources. And then last but not least, we actually have college Marconi Awards, which are the Emmys for college that are we have a college category all to itself. So you could win a Marconi Award, which is pretty cool. So there's plenty of great things that our organization offers, and that all of these organizations, let me just say that every single one of the organizations here is fabulous. So I recommend, trying to look into each of them, and maybe we can all put our websites on the chat.
Excellent. Hugo.
It is about, the value is about identifying mentors and sponsors. Mentors are anonymous behind the scenes. They guide us in making decisions. Sponsors are very public. They're opening doors, building bridges for us to connect to other people. But both are personal relationships. So be very mindful. Not everybody's going to be our significant other. Not everybody's going to be our friends. But working with NHJ and other organizations, it helps you identify who your mentors and sponsors are, and they're key for your career at the beginning, middle, and end.
Excellent. Monica, real quickly, non-convention related benefits to students for your organization.
Yes, we offer scholarships for a variety of people who work on different kinds of platforms that are open now. Actually, the deadline is in December. The informal mentorship comes through connections that you make throughout the year. And we are able to connect people with people in the organization to build those relationships and keep improving their work.
Excellent. And then Erica, you get the last word.
If any of you are interested in radio as a career, and specifically you're interested in learning about sales, marketing, research, positioning the medium, rab.com is exactly your place that you're going to want to be.
Excellent.
And I would encourage you to check us out.
And I can see that people are putting stuff in the chat function as far as connections and web addresses and stuff. Thank you all for being here. Your organizations are fantastic. Thank you, Dana, for joining on the other side to give us that other perspective. I wish you all luck. We all know when it comes to conventions, the work that goes into that. So I thank you, and everybody else does. Have a great day, and I hope you can continue to enjoy the convention here online. Bye.